Yes, good evening, Mr. Cardinal, Mr. Ambassador, dear colleague, uh, dear Mark. It's an honor for me to welcome you as Ambassador of the Czech Republic to Slovakia on the occasion of this very special event. For 3 days, we will talk about the cooperation. For 3 days, we will talk about relations. For 3 days, we will talk about freedom. This is all the more important because we will be speaking on these memorable days when we are commemorated the 35th anniversary of the November 1989. 17 November 1989 means that after more than 40 years, we have fundamentally changed the direction of our country, of Czechoslovakia, and later of the Czech and Slovak Republic. We became the member of NATO, the EU, and other institutions in the family of democratic countries. We stopped living behind the Iron Curtain. We started to travel, study, and work abroad. Our standard of living increased. We simply started to do well. But these positive developments led to the fact that we forgot or stopped being aware of many bad things or simply did not want to be aware of them. We have come to the take of freedom, independence, and security for granted as a state of affairs that does not need to be fought for, a state of affairs that is simply there, that cannot go away, and that no one can change. But this is a mistake. Freedom is not a given. Freedom must be protected. Freedom must be fought for. Thank you very much for your coming, and thank you very much for the guests from the Czech Republic for making the trip to Slovakia and coming. I would like to thank you for what you are doing for the development on our relations, not only between the Czechs and the Slovak nations. I would like to thank especially Mark for organizing this event. And I guess it's very, and I want to today, I can say that Mr. Cardinal Luca is the next prize person, and I would like to congratulate in this time, and I wish you all the very nice stay to Bratislava. I thank you once again for your coming and for your cooperation. Thank you. Good night.
Your Eminence, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as Ambassador of Finland to Czechia and Slovakia, it's my great honor to briefly address you on this important occasion. 35 years ago, students and citizens of Czechoslovakia bravely rose up and began the path to freedom and democracy. We thank all those who then and now are working to ensure that freedom remains an integral part of our lives in Slovakia, in Europe, and in the whole world. Today, we are celebrating 35 years of freedom and are remembering those who risked their lives in November 1989 as they were defending the values and the rights they cherished. Freedom is never given. Freedom must be fought for. In maintaining democracy, human rights, and rule of law, education plays a central role. Today, education has also strategic importance. Actually, it was the university students who started and were the driving force of the Velvet Revolution, the revolution that guaranteed also the freedom of education. An education system must naturally respond to the needs of the society that surrounds it. At the same time, education has the power to shape and improve that society. Education can help bringing about a just society which shows equal care and respect for all, a democratic society that is worth defending and upholding. Let me join Rudolf in thanking Mark for this initiative, and I'm looking forward to very interesting discussions. Thank you for your attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and partners in this discussion, I'm honored to be given a chance to speak here tonight, but certainly first I need to thank Mark Ellenbogen for his very specific contribution to our discussions that have historical dimension. We are commemorating a Velvet Revolution 35 years ago, and we have to say very clearly we are now living in a different world, and we want to understand what's going on so that these principles or ideas that were bringing us to action 35 years ago are not forgotten, passed to young generation. And we have to admit that the complexities of our situation sometimes make me to feel some sort of Minderwertigkeit complex in me, because it's hard to understand, and we need to find a way how to help each other, how to respect each other, find common grounds, and still keep certain principles that were discovered by Czechs and Slovaks 35 years ago alive. I'm especially aware of the fact that we are now in Bratislava, which means that it brings here very naturally relations between Czechs and Slovaks. And if we go back to history, we know that the relationship is a relationship sometimes difficult, sometimes generating controversies. After the Velvet Revolution, we experienced Velvet Divorce. One of the paradoxes that maybe a country, Czechoslovakia, that was perceived in 1930s as a last island of democracy in Europe that was heading into a very tragic moment, Second World War and whatever was connected with that, turned out to be one of the first victims of revolution in the name of democracy. Still, I think that relations between Czechs and Slovaks are extremely important, and we should all be committed to keep them alive. So I perceived yesterday the message sent by President Pellegrini. That was exactly, I think, what I would like to hear, that we can have differences, we can have this or that, but solidarity and principles of being together in one same fight for freedom and our identities is still there, and that it is something what we need to think about. And they are not only Czechs and Slovaks and our American friends or Westerners. I'm very much aware of the presence of my Russian friends here in this moment, because Ukrainians and Russians are also part of this very, very important discussion. And we need to find a way how to bring them to our conversations and listen very carefully what those who are not necessarily supporting what the current regime of Moscow of Vladimir Putin is doing, and are seeking alternatives. Yesterday evening, I was at a traditional event, Memory of Nation Postbellum had a big program in National Theatre, giving awards to people who should be recognized and not forgotten for their personal contributions in that sense. They were Czechs, Slovaks, both anthems were played under this occasion in National Theatre. Ukrainian voice was also very strong there. And many of those storytellers, those who were recognized because their story should not be forgotten, was very interesting for me. Catholic laymen and lay persons, like women, trying to keep up some sort of unity between their personal integrity and the world around. I'm already speaking too much, but I wish that we can get some inspiration from all these voices, that it is not just our political speculators, but also something like Providence that is around, present. And I'm very much looking forward for the ceremony tomorrow, because I think that choice, Cardinal Dominic Duka, is a great, I would say, inspiration. And I think that we need people who are good pastors, and whatever it means, so that our human behavior in this world, as erratic as it can be, is driven into the right direction. So I'm very especially honored that Cardinal Duka here is with us today. Thank you very much.
I do a fair amount of public speaking, but I'm in a world where you don't use microphones when you're speaking to people. Those who know me will know what I mean. Cardinal Duca, wir freuen uns, dass Sie heute Abend da sind. We are very happy that you're joining us this evening, and of course tomorrow to receive the Hanauer Ellenbogen Award. Und wir würden uns freuen, wenn Sie auch ein paar Wörter sagen würden, Herr Kardinal. Bitte.
My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is my problem with English. My knowledge of English is from home, from my father. He was in Second World in England by the Air Force, also as translated between soldier, but it is not English for this circle. I am from generation, and for my generation, international language was German. I think it is very good, our meeting here in Bratislava, Pressburg, Požoň, Posonium. But really also Bratislava, it is very, very important city in history of Middle Europe. And for my life, it was also the collaboration between Czech Roman Catholic and Slovak Roman Church, Catholic Church in the time of communist era, and also a new beginning was in time for 35 years. It was really very good cooperation, and also it is very great, big difference, not in personal life or in church's life, but it is really also 1,000-year history. Our history, it is history of Roman Empire, German people, and here it was history from Hungarian kingdom. But the great personality of Holy Adalbert Wojciech, it is really man as from time of beginning second millennium, and now it is time for a new era, but since experience, since knowledge of freedom, but freedom is not free. No exists freedom since responsibility. Thank you for your invitation and very good evening for you.
We invited two young pianists to join us from the conservatory, and because we started late, we have some issues with the guests arriving. I'm going to give them a chance to hear this, and then one of them will come up. You know, the Prague Society has been around since the middle of the dissident movement. My mother's family were Czechoslovak, and her father came from Michalovce, and his father came from Uzhgorod. Ergo, that part of my family 100 years ago were Czechoslovaks. And when people say to me, are you Czech? I say no. Are you Slovak? I say no. Are you Ukrainian? I say no. I say I'm Czechoslovak, and that includes all three. My father's family were German speakers. They were nobles, and they left because of Adolf Hitler. Und das ist der Grund, warum ich Deutsch spreche. Entschuldigung, Herr Kardinal, dass mein Tschechisch so miserabel ist. My greatest Czech words are mluvím česky moc dobře, ale nerozumím nic. And of course, other things that probably I shouldn't say in public. The Prague Society was not founded by me. It was founded by a group of people who worked with the dissidents. Dr. Barbara Day, you'll meet her tomorrow. Princess Lobkowitz, you'll meet her tomorrow. People like Martin Palausch and others who were part of our founding, Pavel Bratinka, and also Slovaks. And it's very difficult for me to come from an international family and a family that expresses itself through bringing people together into a world today where it seems like we're breaking farther and farther apart. And the Society has given out the Hanwar Ellenbogen Award for 25 years. It's gone from Vladimir Ashkenazi, who brought us a young pianist, to Madeleine Albright, to Václav Havel, to King Michael of Romania, Milos Forman, Magda Vazhirova. I hope our link works later, and many more. In that sense, I can only say that I'm part of a continuum, and I hope we keep this continuum in order, because there are plenty of forces on our planet in many different parts of the world that are trying to rip us apart. So my word to us tonight is we must stay and fight together. And sometimes that means you have to pay the price of war, the price of losing sons. I did. And continuing to negotiate and to talk and to try to not see everybody as evil. You know, there are people that are evil. I should know. I was born in a country in Heidelberg, Germany, where a man killed many millions of Jewish people and then went on to kill others through his war and his own people. So, with that in mind, I hope that the pianist is now ready to join us and that we can have a short session. I'm afraid I'm a technological zero. Thank you. the staff actually did give me a running time for this evening, and just to make sure we now have, yes, we do. Thank you very much. You know, when my father came from Germany to Canada, and then part of the family left to go to the United States, and then he met his wife, my mother, who, as I told you, came from Czechoslovakia. They always taught us that we should be welcoming to people. And my father used to say in his heavy accent, you know, if you have it, you don't have to flaunt it. And I'm not sure what I have, but certainly in the time that the Prague Society has done what it does, and the time that we have interacted with this part of the world, and it is in my heart and my soul. And when Martin Palash and I used to crash together on the river in Prague, in the Vltava, and we would then go to meetings. We had no idea what we were going to do. They had no idea. You had no idea. I was later honored to meet Magda Vazhirova and Jan Charnogusky. I know he's controversial in this world, but Jan did a lot for the society. Every word he made, every promise he made, he held.
I'm delighted to be on this call this evening and to remember and to value the Hannah T. Ellenbogen Award. I still have vivid memories of receiving the letter awarding me the award in, I think it was 1999, and getting a real thrill at the fact that not only was I getting this award for what I was doing in NATO at that time, but that it involved an award also to somebody that I could nominate from the Czech Republic. And I was delighted then to nominate David Hodan, who was a quadriplegic young man who had written an essay around the 2002 Prague summit. I remember the thrill at the time of being offered the prize, and clearly was impressed by the number of people who had previously been awarded the Ellenbogen Award. And I found myself in the company of some really, truly great people. I felt very modest, slightly embarrassed at being compared to the likes of them. But I also felt a remarkable feeling of warmness that I'd been recognized for what I'd done as Secretary General of NATO, but also that I was able to recognize somebody else in this ceremony. Too often, one gets awards, and I've got a number of awards from countries, high honors, but very rarely do you get a sum of money that you can allocate to somebody young, bright, up and coming. And therefore, when I was asked to make that donation, immediately I thought of this young man, David Hodan, who had written the essay around the time of the summit. The essay was entitled "If I Was the Secretary General of NATO," and it was a remarkable essay, very perceptive, uplifting, and concluded at the end, "I am glad that I am not the Secretary General of NATO." So at the ceremony, and we've got the anniversary this evening, at the ceremony I met this young man for the first time, and I remember only too vividly the circumstances of that time. So I'm so pleased this evening, even in this virtual circumstance, to be able to pay a tribute to Hannah Ellen Bogan, whose legacy led to this remarkable award and series of awards, but also to the people behind the award who so carefully select the people for the award. And I know Mark Ellenbogen himself, who is persistent and occasionally demanding. That's why I'm on this call this evening remotely. They put a huge amount of work into the award itself and keeping alive the memory of a remarkable lady, Hannah Ellenbogen. So this is a very proud anniversary of the award. And there are many people who I'm sure are there in Prague this evening, perhaps watching this here. As you can see, I'm in the Royal Gallery of the House of Lords, so you can see the glorious background to my contribution. And that's where I am working at the moment. I'm doing a strategic defence review for the government, and that's why I can't be in Prague this evening, although I would have loved to have come. But we're trying to reshape Britain's defences for the threats, the challenges of the future. We live in a very difficult world, lots of new dangers and lots of vulnerabilities. And the armed forces of NATO, including those of my country and of the Czech Republic, have got to be orientated to dealing with the threats and challenges of the future if we're going to keep people safe. So I pay a heartfelt tribute and a lasting commemoration to the Hannah T. Ellenbogen Award. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity of both receiving it and also paying a tribute this evening. Thank you very much indeed.
You will tell me that for at least 100 times tonight. I met George Robertson when I was a junior nothing officer working for a very senior officer. And I have to tell you, he's a remarkable man. He was incredible as the defense secretary later on, and I guess, was he foreign minister, Mark, as well? Where's Mark Pritchard? Somewhere here. Either way, you know, we do these things because we believe in it, not just to get votes and not just to have press and not just to have PR. It's one of the reasons we sometimes do it in a small community or our tribute to the Velvet Revolution. And I know George said Prague and Czechia. I'm sure I badly briefed him, but we know Slovakia played a big role. You were the ones who started the revolution. Your students were the ones who got out. Then it went to Brno, then it went to Prague, and frankly, you get very little recognition of that fact, and it is the reason we picked Bratislava this year to host this. And yes, now I'm a little lost. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to come up again to play for us? That would be lovely. Because we're actually waiting for one more. Am I violating the speaking protocol? Please. Thank you. I'm now pleased to have come forward to speak to us Roger Johnson, the Vice President of Republicans Overseas, and I'm getting a note from the staff. Okay, Roger, can you wait for our next speaker and then you'll start? Thank you. Sorry about that. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Got it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roger Johnson. I'm an American. I was born and raised in California and grew up on a fruit ranch in the middle of the state. I was fortunate enough to go to college and graduate in California, and didn't have the money to go to graduate school, so I thought the U.S. Army may be a good solution to allowing me to finance my graduate studies. So I spent a total of 12 years on active duty with the U.S. Army and 10 years in the reserves. Also, the Army sent me to language school at Defense Language Institute in Monterey, learning German 8 hours a day for an entire year. So I'm reasonably fluent in German right now. I later went to work for a German grocery company, largest one at that time in Germany, the Tingelmann Group. And after a few years working for them, the Berlin Wall fell. And shortly thereafter, I was in Munich at the time, and they said, "We want you to come to the company headquarters tomorrow." And I said, "Okay, I'll fly up there." And I showed up, and they said, "We want you to go to Berlin." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "East Berlin," which was a totally different story at the time. So I ended up working in East Berlin for the next 2 years, preparing for the reunification and for the single currency transfer from the East German mark to the West German mark. And it also quite an amazing time. And I had the good fortune to be invited to a garden party one night and with some of the senior people in the company, and I said, I need to leave because I need to get back on to solve some problems at the company at the time. And they said, "Well, you should meet this Czech lawyer." And I thought, "Czech lawyer, okay." And I turned around, and this beautiful blonde woman was there. And her name was Dr. Katarzyna Brichtova, and she's now Katarzyna Johnson, and our son is here with me tonight. But my time in Europe has been fascinating. I've had a number of very interesting experiences, and I think we'll have the chance to talk more in the next couple of days. And I look forward to the chance to talk to all of you individually. Thank you.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, you always little surprises in life, and I do come from a career where timing and Pünktlichkeit and so on is very important. I can assure you I'm none of that. And so when I go to public events and people prepare a script for me, I mean, they didn't prepare what I'm saying and they didn't prepare a script, but they give me times, I'm the worst person they want to work with. So I apologize to the staff and everybody. You know, every one of us has a story. And I think what makes our stories unique is the time and space when we had them. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have the web. We didn't have handheld devices. You actually had to go to somebody's house, say hi to their father, bring them a bottle of wine, say hi to their mother, bring them some flowers. Then you were told you will have my, in this case, daughter home by whatever, and a ruler was pulled out, and that's how much space you got to be if you wanted to go dancing. And so my point is, human interaction has changed. And when everything is electronic and everything is on the web, and you have 2 billion users of face crud and all the things that I can't stand, ladies and gentlemen, this is my modern technology. And so I fear for our future, because who will still talk to each other? Who will go personally meet the right person? Because doing things online works only so far. How long do I have? Right, I'm being called. Yeah, we have a problem with the technology. Mark, do you want to say 2 things? Mark Pritchard, where are you? Mark Pritchard is a member of the British Parliament. We met eons ago when the changes were taking place. His wife is from Georgia. He is the vice chair, actually, of the OSCE. Why don't you just give us one of your vignettes from that time?
Thank you, Mark, and Your Eminence, thank you for your words, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, Your Excellencies, et al. So great to be here this evening, and thank you to all the patrons of the Prague Society. Without the patrons, this couldn't happen, and the sponsors, and thank you to all the board for supporting Mark over so many years. I don't know how many times, I don't know if it's my fourth or fifth time supporting Prague Society event. Great to be back in Bratislava, beautiful and great country. And thank you to you, Mark, for your leadership over so many years through the ups and downs. I was just thinking, you know, everybody's made great speeches. I can't beat any of those, not that I'd want to. My line, Cardinal, was freedom isn't free. You stole that line like every good cardinal, so I'm not going to use that again. But I was just thinking, as our good friend from the United States was talking about Ronald Reagan. And boy, doesn't the world need Ronald Reagans, in my view, today more than ever. And Reaganomics rather than perhaps a different form of centre-right politics. But that's a personal view, not a British government view. I don't speak for the British government or the British Conservative Party. I'm here in an individual capacity. But at the same time, we're all Democrats, and we have to recognise when the people have spoken, we need to honour that and be consistent in our beliefs. But I was thinking of the story of, I was with a congressman some years ago, I won't mention because he's quite controversial. There's quite a few, it's a lot of competition. And he was a speechwriter to Ronald Reagan. And the claim in the conversation was that when Reagan was coming to Europe to give various speeches in his tour of Europe, the speech he was giving in Berlin, that this particular speechwriter had put in tear down this wall, or bring down this wall, whatever the translation you want to, yeah, exactly, whatever. And Reagan was out at Camp David resting up before the tour of Europe and had a pile of speeches. And the Berlin speech, I don't think was one of the first, I can't remember. But anyway, the speechwriter was smart enough to know that this line in the speech might be controversial and decided to put the speech towards the bottom of a pile of maybe 15, 20 speeches, figuring that perhaps the chief of staff and deputy chief of staff, many of them household names since then, wouldn't get to the bottom of the pile. And that's exactly what happened. But one person got to the bottom of the pile, and that was President Ronald Reagan. And in the next morning, when everybody was having the staff meeting, he mentioned this line, and various people shot up, thought they hadn't put that in, they didn't know about it. But there was one speechwriter that knew that they'd hidden it in the bottom of the pile. So what is the moral of the tale? I don't know. Maybe hide really good things below the bed. If you ask my 5-year-old, she's already looking for Father Christmas. I don't know. But good things sometimes can be hidden in all amongst that detail, those golden nuggets that change history. And I would say that the Prague Society has been providing vignettes, golden nuggets in diplomacy, in politics, and in standing up for international rule of law, democracy, and all good things that work for the common good. So my view tonight, for my thanks to you, Mark, and all of you supporting the Prague Society, is that the golden nugget, the golden thread that binds us all, as the Cardinal said, and as we've heard from other speakers, is standing up for what is right over wrong, for the common good, and staying united on all that makes for our great countries in the European Union, in NATO, and all of us that want to see a better, safer, and fairer world. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Maybe somebody else in the room would like to share a vignette with us from that period of time. because you have strong feelings and emotions, and after all, it is the 35th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, but these things will continue. And there will be another country in another place on this planet, long after many of us are gone, who will then want to or have to celebrate freedom. It's not just going to happen one time in our life, and it's not going to happen one time in the lives of our young staff. And many of us have already lived it. And even today, those of us who lived it came from here to here. Many mistakes were made along the way, many stupid decisions. I made some stupid decisions. My wife wasn't one of them. She just unfortunately passed away. But you know, you constantly have to stand up. Life is not about how you succeed. Life is about how you withstand failure and other things that would try to put you down. And I often fear, as we're waiting for our last special guest to talk to us, that we have to get young people to understand that. They spend their waking days fiddling and foodling with those stupid phones that they have. And I think they have to learn that there's something greater in them, and they can't find it on the internet, and they can't find it on Facebook, and they can't find it on Twitter, and on all that garbage that I've already showed you I don't use. So sorry to the founders, that includes Elon Musk, although he's not my cup of tea at all. So, you know, if you were one of my classes at Oxford where I was a don for a bit, I would call on you, but I wouldn't allow myself to do that here amongst you guests. So, all right, I understand it's going to start. Look, I'll tell you something my wife always told me. She said, we women have a brain, you men have a brain cell. So I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think it could possibly be true. All right, now I can talk to you normally. We are very pleased, the Prague Society and Global Panel, to be in Bratislava tonight for the 25th anniversary of the Hanno R. Ellenbogen Award. During today, we have had discussions offline which were intense about the future of where we're going in the world, with men and women who have played serious roles during that time. And tonight, however, we're here to nominate and to award the next winner of the Hanno R. Ellenbogen Award. Now, before I continue the ceremony, I understand we will have a message from our honorary chair, Wesley K. Clark, who ran for president and previously was a senior military officer, and therefore I will stop and let him speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Wes Clark. I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. Wish I could be with you there tonight, but this is the best we could do. And I'm just honored that Mark Ellenbogen asked me to make some remarks. This is a really important time in Europe, and there's really nothing greater than the symbolism of what we went through before in the Cold War and what Mark's father did and the people associated with it did to bring freedom to the West and bring Czechoslovakia out of the control of the evil empire. And now Putin's coming back. So here we are in a sort of, history doesn't repeat itself, but it sort of rhymes. And so we're here at this moment. We're going to recognize a couple of people in the Citizenship Award. But I just want to say to everyone what an important time this is. I was NATO commander, and I was the commander when we brought Czechia into NATO. We brought Poland in. We brought Hungary in. We fought a tough ethnic cleansing campaign against the Serbs in Kosovo. At that time, we said, NATO, out of area or out of business. And so in the 1990s, we were strong and we looked forward and we believed that the frontiers of freedom would continue to advance. I'm very proud of the leadership in the West for having brought other nations into NATO. But now the inevitable is happening and the rollback is underway. So it's a time where we all have to stand together We have to be strong. We have to remember our principles and values. And so I think the Hanno Ellenbogen Citizenship Award is extremely meaningful, especially at this time. Without further ado, I'd just like to congratulate this year's two recipients. And I wish I were there with you, but Dominic, Cardinal, Duca, Milan, Gnosco are the new recipients of the Leadership Award. Congratulations to you. Thank you for accepting the award. Thank you for what you're going to do for freedom, democracy, and human rights in Czechia, in the West, and with our NATO colleagues. Thank you very much. Mark, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. Thank you.
The 35th commemoration of the Velvet Revolution was also upon us, and I think we can take former presidential candidate Wesley Clark's words as applying to that anniversary. And we thank him for his service and also for running for president of the United States. Many of you might not know that I come from a mixed background, a mother who was Czechoslovak at the time and included Uzhgorod, that is Prague, Michalovce, and Uzhgorod, but all still Czechoslovakia. My father came from a German noble family, and all left because most of them either died in the uranium and coal mines, or as my father's family, they were killed. On this occasion of this award, I want to tell you a little bit about my mother. She was quite a bit younger than my father. She was a tough lady. She grew up on the rubble of the war, and they came back and then they left again because of the elections in 1949, 48. I don't want to say too much this evening because we have several people who will speak. And so given the timeline this evening, I would happily call two people, Ambassador Rudolf Jindrak to say some words, and then Ambassador of Finland, Pasi Chumi. Mr. Jindrak, please.
Good evening, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Mr. Cardinal, Mr. Kняžko, dear Mark Ellenbogen. It's really for me great pleasure and honor to be today in this very, very important day, not only for the Czech-Slovak cooperation, but I guess we should more speak about our past, our not only speak about our past, but also about our future. I'm very happy that this 25th anniversary of Hanno Ellenbogen Award is taken in Bratislava, because the Slovak Republic and the Bratislava is very integral part of the Europe, and we have some experiences from the fight against the communism, and I am very, very glad that two personalities, Mr. Cardinal Duka and Milan Kняžko, are both for me the symbol of this fight of the freedom, the fight against the communism, and in this fight, on this occasion, on the 17th November 1989. And once again, I am very happy that we celebrated this occasion or this event in Bratislava, because I guess the part of the Europe, the Central Europe and the East Europe, is in the West Europe forgotten sometimes, and we should make more for our historical memories in this context. Once again, I would like to welcome you in Bratislava, the Czech ambassador in the Slovak Republic. I wish you all, not only our very good friends, Mr. Duka and Mr. Kняžko, all the best, and congratulate to this award, and I wish you very nice evening. Thank you very much.
apologize, first of all, for not being able to be there with you. Getting on an airplane in the United States today is a little bit like hunting for a bear. Sometimes you get the bear, but sometimes the bear gets you. And I had difficulties and I could not be with you, and I regret that deeply. First of all, let me congratulate you on your 35th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution. The Czech Republic and Slovakia have much to celebrate. And when I was a young Army officer thinking about the Fulda Gap and the Soviet Union's invasion route into Western Europe, if anyone had told me that the Czechs and the Slovaks would be able to transition peacefully to a democracy from communism, I would have said that's impossible. It can't happen. But it did happen, and it happened here. It happened where you are 35 years ago. And I believe it was more than just a transition of one or two countries. It was a spark that said to the world that people could demand that their governments pay more attention to their needs and help them. And it began a series of such demands. People began to request their governments quite forcefully to do more. It happened in Yugoslavia and Georgia, Ukraine and Kyrgyzstan, and the Arab Spring occurred, and it spread to Egypt and Syria and Tunisia, Yemen. And all of it was something very new, which was a rising of people to demand that their countries pay more attention to their needs. And the 21st century, of course, there are people, it terrified Russia, it terrified China, and they responded with the 21st century version of the Berlin Wall. They spent billions and billions of dollars to acquire technology to monitor what people read and what they say, created censorship programs and disinformation, propaganda, misinformation to deceive people's perceptions of reality, because in democracies, it's critical for the people to understand and have an accurate picture of what's going on if they are to give their consent to be governed. And some fear this new technology led by the Chinese and this axis of evil of Russia and China and Iran and North Korea, and that perhaps it controls the future. I don't believe that. If I can go back to a story in which Napoleon was talking to a cardinal of the church, and he says, "I have the power to destroy the church." And the cardinal responds that he's not worried about Napoleon's power, because Catholic priests have been trying to destroy the church for 1800 years and it hasn't worked. And that's an apocryphal story, but it's because the cardinal realized that the basis of religion, the desire to seek beauty and truth and to do to others as they would do unto you, comes from deep within our souls, and it is God-given and not government-given. And I believe alongside that is the desire for freedom, the reaching out that we've seen over the last 35 years by millions and millions of people that simply demand to be respected. And so I'm not worried about the new axis of evil. We will prevail. It won't be easy, but we will prevail. I'd also like to thank the Prague Society for what it does. I met Mark Ellenbogen about maybe 20 years ago now on the steps of the Chamber of Commerce in Istanbul. And since then, I've tried to help as I can with his efforts, remarkable efforts, to oppose tyranny wherever it rises. And that's been a great honor for me. I've met Václav Havel. I've talked to Adam Michnik, the Polish journalist. Wes Clark became a friend, the general who brought stability and peace to Eastern Europe. Andres Pastrana, president of Colombia, who freed his people from the clutches of cartels and gangs. I met and talked and helped the great Tony Fitzjohn, who was a naturalist and conservationist who did much in Africa to try to save animals. And I met and talked to Swad Mekanet, who is a remarkably brave journalist who covers very troubled areas. And all of those people were recipients of the Ellenbogen Award, and I wish I had been there to meet the latest guardians of freedom. I cannot do so, but I'd like to thank them very much for what they've done. I think 200 years from now, when people look back at this time and what you people did 35 years ago there, they may think that it's a difficult time. They may marvel at some of the work that's been done to preserve freedom. But one thing I know for sure is that they will not be questioning, they will not be asking about this idea of freedom because it will be still with them. And that's because of folks like you. And so thank you finally for supporting the Prague Society. Thank Mark for all he does. Thank these awardees for their courage and commitment. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a second try. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to say a couple of words to you. This is really an honor to me. And celebrating the Velvet Revolution is very important. I would also like to congratulate the award winners, Cardinal Duca and Minister Kniasko for the awards. I was thinking what I would say to you, and actually I thought that I will only give one reflection from today's discussion. How can we guarantee the freedom to Ukraine? I don't know, but I know one recipe that certainly would not work, and that is the idea presented by Henry Kissinger, and it has popped up also lately, and that would be the Finlandization of Ukraine. It did not work for Finland. We lost territories to Soviet Union, and we had wars against Soviet Union, and we had decades of Soviet Union involvement in our domestic and foreign policy. I know that this is not the way how we can guarantee the freedom of Ukraine. Well, actually, this was the only comment that I wanted to make. So thank you very much for this opportunity once again.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you on this precious day when we celebrate the 35th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution, as well at the same time the 25th Hanno Ellenbogen Award. When Mark approached me to speak on this festive day, I had to think about what could be interesting for you. And I decided to share with you my story, which is not probably entirely ordinary from the times of Velvet Revolution. Surely you all know the stories from the squares, from the times of Velvet Revolution, from Bratislava and Prague, from 16th, 17th and ongoing days, how the rallies took place, how the new movements and political parties were created and formed, how students, actors, and other important persons expressed their desires and hopes at the rallies. What a difficult and uncertain times it was, and how much risk the main organizers and, of course, tribunes of the Velvet Revolution carried. We know it all, and I would like from this place to pay a tribute to our nominees, of course. In October '89, as a fresh graduate of the law faculty, I began my mandatory military service because there was only one military prison in Czechoslovakia. I was placed there. It was in Eastern Slovakia. I have to say that the military service itself was unusual and very frustrating, but my expertise as a lawyer was not usable, so I was appointed to the position of a food storekeeper, which was quite responsible, but on the other hand, quite convenient position. However, as the November 70 came, the game completely changed. And of course, I was very envious to my friends, colleagues who've been standing on the squares and have been able to do something. Surely you can guess it was probably more difficult for us because we took a military oath to faithfully serve the socialist country regime. As the soldiers, we followed the TV very carefully, and there was a huge euphoria in our unit, and of course, desire to do something. On the other hand, our commanders began to threaten us with a military court if we started taking any action on our own. So, of course, we were heavily thinking what to do and how to make some riot, if we can say so. So I have another colleague. We were two lawyers at the unit, at the prison. So finally, we decided to organize a silent rebellion of prisoners, which consisted of a symbolic hunger strike to support the revolution. Of course, the prison commander, as he found out, immediately called military police and investigator of the prosecutor's office. But after our interrogation, he had to state that no one had violated any regulations, because although the prisoners were on hunger strike, they took their food properly and then returned it without eating, which was not a violation of any military regulation. So you can imagine how we felt. It was a big, big win. What was much worse, however, was the declaration of the highest combat alert by the Minister of Defense, which lasted about the 10 first days. For me personally, or of course for others too, it was about the 10 most difficult days in our lives, because we saw on television how soldiers in Romania had to advance with weapons in their hands against their own citizens gathered in the squares. And the attitude of our commanders created an imminent threat of civil war. Fortunately, these considerations turned out to be useless after the recall of the combat readiness, and our joy from the coming freedom broke out in full. And today, experience like mine and any other are very difficult to transfer to young generations. It sounds like from other universe, and therefore it is, in my opinion, very necessary to talk and talk and talk to them as much as possible, because I hope we all care about our democratic future and freedom. Thank you.
związane dwoma czasami.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would first like to applaud the choice of laureates of Nobel Prize this year, because both laureates, I think, are selected in a right time. I would start, I have been so fortunate to know both of them personally, but I will start with Cardinal Duka. I think that I'm a Catholic, for us, but for all human beings, there is a very important conversation that one can have with his own soul, and that confession in Catholic, right, is a very important opportunity to say, what do you think about your past? What happened to you? What did you do? And hope for forgiveness and reconciliation, so that you can be able to have a new beginning, to start again, and with a clean sheet. I think that we need this thing, not only as individuals, all of us, but also collectively, because we are living in a common world. Milan Kňažko, I was also fortunate to meet him in a great moment. He's a man of theater, actor by his original calling. So for him, I have here, I lost it now, something from Hamlet's words that he made in Elsinore when he was inviting actors to his domestic situation. And he said, what is the art of playing? Is to put mirror to the nature, to expose good and bad things about nature, and let us think about that. Play is the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king. It is the beautiful English formulation. There's a nice Czech translation. Ta hra je sítí, do níž svědomí krále se chytí. So I think that both Cardinal and actor Kňažko have kind of a similar profession. They have net and try to catch something, like Shimon, who was turned to Peter, was also trying to catch human souls and give them chance for new beginning. Actors do the same thing, and that's why I think Milan Kňažko and Dominik Duka belong together. Congratulate to you for this recognition, but I am 100% convinced that you deserve it. Thank you very much.
We will now commence with the Hanauer Ellenbogen Award, and to be the intro, you already heard from Wesley Clark, who received the award previously, and now I'd like to invite Markus Meckel, a theologian who was the recipient of the award previously in 2022 in Leipzig and was the last foreign minister of Democratic DDR and later a member of the Bundestag. Markus Meckel, bitte.
Thank you very much to inviting me to give some words. We are commemorating the 35th anniversary of this marvelous year, 1989. I think they have sometimes the impression that Europe is not enough aware about the importance of this year. There are some people, and especially you, who took part in this development. I'm personally, as you mentioned, a pastor and Protestant theologian growing up in GDR, and at the same time was active in GDR. But whatever we did in that time, we never knew that we will win. There's really, it will come to reality, what we worked for and what we wished and what was in our mind and spirit. Then freedom really will become reality for our countries and in Central Europe. And I think, saying it as a theologian, that both belongs together. Working for it and understanding that the effect is not in our hands. As a Christ, I would say, it's a gift to us that we really reached it. And it was not only a gift for us, it was a gift for Europe. And it is a legacy for Europe. And I think this is what we'll have to learn today in a world which is really so crazy today. And we are afraid that we will lose what we reached 35 years ago. And it is so important to understand the real basis which is related and linked with the values we fought for. And we have to implement it. And today, the most important challenge is to support Ukraine. They are staying for that what we tried 35 years ago, just to defend their freedom, just to defend their identity, just to defend their own way on the basis of these European and in the end global values, the human rights and the legal basis for international law. And it's a duty for us to stand with them. It's a duty for us to integrate them in the same structures in which we are, which is so important, not going alone this way. We, in the end, were not alone. I remember that wording of 89, zurück nach Europa, back towards Europe. Sometimes I thought in that time, that wording is not right. That wording is the description of the current Europe as European Union, and in this point it was right. But seeing what we were fighting against, that was totalitarian dictatorship. And even that is, you can call it a European child coming from that history too. And so we have to be concrete that Europe, which we have in mind, has to be based on that values. And I think, and I'm convinced, and if we read it again, the Lisbon Treaty, I in that time, 15 years ago, was hoping that it would be possible to have a European constitution. We failed to have it. But the Lisbon Treaty is describing the same, without the symbols, but the values, the European values, which we described very carefully. And I think it is the most modern description of human rights. And this, although knowing that churches in our history were sometimes fighting against these rights too, we as theologians, can describe and give reasons, and even theologian reasons, for that basis of human rights for the future, giving dignity to every human being. And let's take it for the basis for us and for everybody, and fight for that, and being thankful where it is a reality. Thank you very much.
We will now commence with the honorees, and if Princess Lobkowitz would come up and join me, the chair of the nomination committee of the Hanauer Ellenbogen Award. Because we are in Slovakia, you will bear with me, Kardinal Duka, that we will start with Milan Knaško from Bratislava. Let me just say a few words about you, Minister Knaško. You were born in 1945 in Horní Plachtinice. You had a varied career, starting as a theater stage technician, a miner before rising to the fame in film and television actor. You studied at the National Academy of Arts in Bratislava and performed with the Slovak National Theater. Politically active, you co-founded Public Against Violence, the first democratic party after the 1989 revolution, and later helped to establish the Movement for a Democratic Slovakia, HZDS, which you left in 1993 when Vladimir Mečiar became its leader. You served as an advisor to Czech President Václav Havel and was a deputy in the Czechoslovak parliament. After Slovakia's independence in 1993, you held roles in the Slovak government, including Minister without Portfolio, Vice Chairman of the Cabinet, and briefly as Foreign Minister in 1994. You were a parliamentary deputy with the Democratic Union, now part of the SDK coalition, and served as Minister of Culture between 1998 and 2002. Please, Minister Knaško, we welcome you and thank you for accepting the Hanauer Ellenbogen this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, my speech will be very short because thank you for these words, but I feel that these words, it's not only for me, there are very many friends, for artists, students, mainly million people in our streets and places in all Czechoslovakia in this period. It was the most important for changement, this regime communist. I'm very proud of it, and I will try all my possible in my future, the next 30 years, no, 20 years maybe, 10, it's enough. But a minimum tomorrow, I will be so positive that you should be maybe proud of me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
And to recognize, in his words, all of the Slovaks who fought for freedom and worked with him. Some of them are no longer with us. The second recipient this evening is Dominic Cardinal Duka, Cardinal Archbishop Emeritus of Prague. Cardinal Duka was born in 1943 and is a prominent Czech Catholic leader who served as Archbishop of Prague from 2010 to 2022 and became Cardinal in 2012. Duka's early life was shaped by challenges. His father, an army officer, was imprisoned under Czechoslovakia's communist regime. Ordained as a Dominican priest in 1970, Duka faced restrictions when his priestly authorization was revoked in 1975, forcing him to work secretly in the ministry at a soda factory. He was briefly imprisoned in the 1980s due to his involvement in the underground religious activities. Even his mentor was taken and killed. In 1998, Duka became bishop at Hradec, later appointed Archbishop of Prague by Pope Benedict XVI. He advocated for the restitution of church property seized during communism and presided over the funeral of Václav Havel in 2011. That is where he and Havel met, in prison. Pope Francis accepted his resignation as Archbishop of Prague in May 2022, concluding a very notable tenure. And with that, Herr Kardinal, please join us. Thank you very much.
Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it is now the possibility to see Cardinal is not a very good speaker, but no in English. I prefer German language, and we have this text in paper, English and Deutsch, German. Ich möchte Ihnen dafür danken, dass Sie mir diesen Preis mit einem gewissen Gefühl der Unverdientheit verliehen haben. Als ich in dieser kleinen Publikation blätterte, in der ich in die Augen derjenigen blicken konnte, die im Laufe der Jahre diese Auszeichnung erhalten haben, empfand ich eine gewisse Freude darüber, wie viele von Ihnen Freunde von mir sind oder mir in meinem Leben begegnet sind. Ich kann mich nicht mit Ihnen vergleichen, aber ich würde sagen, ich bin glücklich, mit Ihnen zusammen zu sein. Der Kampf für die Freiheit und Demokratie hat viele Jahre gedauert. Die Hälfte meines Lebens habe ich in Unfreiheit und Verfolgung verbracht. Aber sie nannten diese Zeit eine Volksdemokratie. Die Herrschaft der Arbeiterklasse. Ich war 20 Jahre lang Arbeiter, aber ich kann mich nicht an einen einzigen Tag erinnern, an den ich regiert habe. Ich wurde beherrscht wie der Rest meinen Kollegen. Der Kampf für die Menschenwürde, für die Freiheit erfordert den Glauben, sowohl im allgemeinen Sinne als auch im geistigen Leben. Das Wort Glaube wird in der Sprache der Bibel mit Wissen in Verbindung gebracht, das aus Intuition und Begegnung erwacht. Unsere Kultur und Zivilisation ist aus einer Reihe von Büchern entstanden, die wir die Bibel nennen. Es ist ein Buch, das in der Umgebung aufgewachsen ist, in der unsere Zivilisation und Kultur entstanden ist. Ironischerweise liegt es nicht westlich von Bratislava, sondern östlich oder besser gesagt südöstlich Mesopotamien, Ägypten, Hellade und Rom. Da dieses Buch in einem Band veröffentlicht wurde, ist der Teil, der in hebräischen Sprache verfasst wurde, eng mit der Figur des Moses verbunden, der das Fundament Israels legte. Zuallererst als eine Gemeinschaft, als Nation oder besser gesagt das Volk Gottes. Wir verbinden es mit den Tafeln der 10 Gebote, die Grundsätze, die wir befolgen sollen. Aber an erster Stelle steht nicht das Hören, sondern das Verstehen. Mose hört eine Stimme und fragt, wer bist du? Er erhält die Antwort, ich bin, der ich bin. Denn 10 Gebote sind eine Aufzeichnung des Bundes zwischen Gott und den Menschen. Hier wird die Demokratie geboren. Derjenige, der ist, behandelt Mose als Partner, als Freund. Mose gibt diesen Bund weiter und sagt zu den Israeliten, wähle, entscheide dich. Es gibt einen Weg in die Freiheit, der nicht ohne Verantwortung ist, oder einen Weg in die Hölle des Chaos, wo jeder machen kann, was er will. Der Glaube basiert auf Vertrauen, Wahrhaftigkeit und Freundschaft. Einer der ersten Preisträger, Václav Havel, begann seinen Weg in die Welt der Politik und der Regierung mit dem Slogan Wahrheit und Liebe machen frei. Wissen und gegenseitig Freundschaft, Gleichheit vor Gott und untereinander. Das sind die Ideale, derer wir am 17. November gedenken. Der Monat November ist in unserer Sprache der Monat der fallenden Blätter. Er erinnert an diejenigen, die nicht mehr leben, auch nicht auf diejenigen, die der Kampf zur Freiheit und Demokratie mit ihrem Leben bezahlt haben. Der zweite Teil der Bibel, das Buch, aus dem unsere Zivilisation und Kultur hervorgegangen ist, wird von der Gestalt Jesu Christi beherrscht, der aus dem Stamm Juda, aus dem Königsgeschlecht der davidischen Dynastie stammt. Er schließt einen Bund mit uns, einen neuen Bund in Blut des Lammes. Wer sein Leben für andere hingibt, ist nach seinen Worten der Träger der wahren Liebe. Deshalb nennt er uns Freunde. Ihr seid meine Freunde. Deshalb nenne ich sie und die ganze Galerie der Geehrten meine Freunde, my friends. Thank you.
We've decided to make an administrative change this evening and to award the third recipient of the Hanuar Ellenbogen Award here in Bratislava and not in Brno. Let me tell you about the Prague Society. The Prague Society grew out of the dissident movement, fighting communist regimes, and finally became a registered NGO in 1997 during the presidency of Václav Havel. Its main aims are to provide international cooperation in Central Europe by showing leadership against corruption and abuse. Global Panel Foundation was founded in the Netherlands in 1989 by Bas Baybroek and Frans Lervink, two Dutch billionaires, with the support of the Dutch Foreign Minister Hans van den Broek. It is known to work in conflict areas behind the scenes, and therefore we are very pleased that we jointly give this award. Hanuar Ellenbogen was my mother, and it is this award that we dedicated in her name because she grew up on the rubble of World War II. She had a lifelong commitment to public service, and she particularly loved young people, and I would say for her time and place, she was a feminist. With that in mind, I'd like to introduce the third Hanuar Ellenbogen recipient for today, and we have two surprises. I don't think they realize it, which is fine. I guess every event should have a surprise, but let me start with the third recipient. Yevgenia Shirikova, dissident and environmentalist. I'm glad you're standing next to me. I'd like to show support for this lady. She is a Russian environmentalist and dissident. She was primarily known for opposing the building of a motorway through Khimki Forest near Moscow. She managed to upgrade this local campaign to an environmental movement of a national scale. Later, Shirikova played a prominent role in the 2011 to 2013 Russian protests following disputed parliamentary elections in Russia. In recent years, Shirikova has advocated for aid to Ukraine amongst the aggression, and I think that's quite impressive for a Russian woman who has been treated quite badly by Mr. Putin to fight for the Ukrainians and especially for people that are in jail. And with that in mind, we will honor you with a third Hanwar Ellenbogen Award for this evening. Thank you, Yevgenia, and please, if you'd say a few words.
Thank you. It's so impression for me. I really very pleasant for this incredible prize. Thank you so much. And I want to use this unique opportunity and remind you about civilian Ukrainian prisoners. It's people were kidnapped from occupied Ukraine territories, tortured, and at this moment, minimum 7,000 civilian Ukrainian prisoners on concentration camps on territory of Russia. And I kindly ask you to help us to organize public hearing about problem of Ukraine civilian prisoners on European Parliament, on Parliament Assembly, and on parliaments of European Union, on Parliament of Finland, on Parliament on Norway, on Parliament on Baltic countries, and Parliament on Czech Republic, and surround Europe, and of course on Congress of USA. We need to demand from Putin regime to release these people, because at this moment we don't have a special procedure for release these ordinary, peaceful people. And I need to share with you important information, because unfortunately we have on Russian territory a special concentration camp only for Ukraine on Taganrog. And weight of man, ordinary man, Ukrainian on this concentration camp, only 40 kilos. And Putin regime to kill these people because they identified themselves as a Ukrainian, because they choose a path of democracy, because they demand a freedom. And I kindly ask you to give a weapon, normal missiles for Ukraine, because thanks of that, Ukraine to release their territories. Thanks of that, Ukraine to release this Ukraine civilian prisoners, because at this moment, Putin regime to organize a real terror against peaceful civilian Ukrainians on occupied territories. Thank you so much.
I believe we have 2 more medallions to give out this evening. One is a surprise. A great grande dame of the dissident movement, who happens to be from the UK, Dr. Barbara Day, is with us this evening. She recently turned 80. She was one of my mentors, and she provided a path for me to meet many of the people that we later did work with. And I feel my mother would understand, Liebe Mutter, that we are giving this great lady an award and that is a Hanno R. Ellenbogen Award. She did not know about receiving this evening. Barbara Day, may I ask you to come up, please?
This is Thank you. It's absolutely the case that I didn't expect this, not even in any kind of imagining. I'm very honored to be in such company, and I don't think of myself as a very leading member of the dissident movement at all. In fact, I was not. I was one of the humblest of helpers. It is a surprise, and I can't find the words to express it. Thank you.
I think the appropriate thing to do now would be to have the four recipients to come up and have a photo together without me in it, but I'd like that very much if we can have that happen. Cardinal Duca, Minister Knotchko, Dr. Day, if we could do a group photo of all four of you, I hope that's okay. It's very hard for me to want to end this particular ceremony, but I'd like to do so with maybe a surprise. I didn't have a great relationship with my family, but there is one nephew of mine who happens to be living in Vienna, and I asked him to join us tonight. He happened to get along well with my mother, and I would ask him to come up and say a few words if he's prepared to do so.
Hello, everyone. Of course, I'm not prepared to say a few words, but I'll still try and do so. As you can hear, I am also very nervous. Wasn't expecting this. But yes, it's been several years since she passed away. And I know that she's very, very proud of all this. what you set up, what you brought together, who you brought together. And I know she is proud and is looking down proud on you. And thank you again for this night. Thank you.
Well, I hope she's proud of you too. Immerhin bist du die Zukunft, ich nicht mehr. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a man of many words. I don't have a vignette to end this. And I just thank you all for joining us this evening. And I wish you a very nice onward travel to wherever you're going. Thank you very much. Dakuye pekni. Spasiba bolshoi. I think that covers people in the room. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.
I do apologize. I sometimes make this mistake. Sorry, camera people. But we do have one young person playing at the end, so maybe we should say that. My apologies.
Ever so often I make faux pas, and I did one this evening. So if I could have Marcus Meckel come back up to here. It turns out, for reasons I don't understand, and frankly, I apologize for it, we were never able to give you your medallion in Leipzig. So herewith, we make amends to you, Mr. Reverend. Now, ladies and